There is a quiet kind of wisdom that grows in a man who lives alone in his later years. It is not the loud kind of wisdom that fills a room with words. It is the silent kind that sits beside you when the house is empty. The kind that listens to the hum of the refrigerator and finds meaning in it. The kind that understands the weight of the sunrise after a night spent in complete stillness. When a man grows old and finds himself without a woman beside him, his world changes in ways that few can understand. It is not just about loneliness. It is about learning how to exist with yourself after a lifetime of existing for others. Many older men who live alone never plan for it. Some outlive their partners. Others parted ways long ago, choosing peace over constant misunderstanding. Some simply never married, thinking there would always be time later. But time has a way of slipping past quietly, like water through open fingers. Suddenly, one morning arrives, and the chair across the table is empty. The breakfast is made for one. The conversation that once filled the room now lives only in memory. Yet in that silence, something profound begins to form, a deeper awareness of life itself. At first, the silence feels like an intruder. It presses against the walls and makes even the smallest noise echo. The tick of the clock, the creak of a chair, the sound of one's own breath. But with time, that silence becomes a companion. It teaches patience. It teaches presence. It teaches that peace is not found in constant company, but in understanding that being alone does not mean being unloved. Many older men who live alone start to see that solitude, though heavy at first, becomes a mirror that reflects who they truly are. Still, life alone comes with challenges. Cooking for one feels unnecessary. Some men skip meals or settle for bread and tea. This can quietly harm the body over time. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition and Gerontology and Geogetics found that elderly men who live alone are more likely to suffer from malnutrition due to low motivation to cook or shop for groceries. The body needs protein, fiber, and hydration more than ever after 60. Yet when meals lose their social warmth, eating becomes just another task. To avoid this, experts suggest simple habits such as preparing meals in advance, joining a local meal sharing group, or even eating while listening to a podcast or radio show to recreate a sense of company. The health of the mind becomes just as important. Studies show that social isolation can raise the risk of dementia by as much as 40%. The National Institute on Aging reports that loneliness triggers stress responses in the body similar to chronic inflammation. Over time, this affects memory, heart health, and sleep. Many older men who live alone fall into patterns of silence that become dangerous. They stop speaking much. They stop reaching out. Days blend together. One evening looks like the next. To counter this, it is vital to keep the brain engaged. Reading the newspaper aloud, calling an old friend, attending community events or volunteering. Even small routines like morning walks or tending to plants can anchor the mind and bring back structure. But loneliness is not always sadness. For some, it becomes freedom. Freedom from judgment. Freedom from expectation. A man who has lived long enough to lose what he once depended on often learns to rely on simpler joys, making his own coffee exactly how he likes it. Watching the sky without needing to explain why. Taking a walk without a destination. These small freedoms become sacred. They bring back a quiet sense of control that aging sometimes tries to steal. Still, there are moments when the heart aches unexpectedly. Maybe it happens at night when the bed feels too big, or in the grocery store when he passes by the tea his wife once loved. The memory strikes deep. It brings a wave of silence that sits heavy in the chest. But even that pain carries wisdom. It reminds him that love never disappears. It only changes form. The warmth, once shared through touch or voice, now lives inside his memories, his habits, his small daily acts. Love becomes quieter, but not weaker. Many men also face the reality of fading physical strength. Climbing stairs becomes slower. Joints ache in the morning. Simple tasks take longer. But studies show that maintaining even light activity helps preserve independence. Research from Harvard Health Publishing suggests that walking 30 minutes a day, 3 to 5 times a week, can lower the risk of heart disease, improve mood, and slow cognitive decline. Strength training twice a week can reduce the risk of falls by improving balance and muscle tone. Even gardening or light housework counts as physical activity. Movement, no matter how gentle, keeps both the body and the mind awake. Sleep also changes when a man grows old alone. Nights stretch longer. The room feels colder. Thoughts wander easily. Many men wake up multiple times, not from discomfort, but from the body's changing rhythm. This is normal, yet it can feel unsettling. Research from the Sleep Foundation shows that older adults often experience lighter sleep due to reduced melatonin production. To improve rest, it helps to keep a regular bedtime. Avoid long naps and dim lights an hour before sleep. Some men find comfort in soft background music or the sound of rain from an app. It makes the night feel less empty. Beyond health, there is something deeper happening inside these men. Living alone in older age forces a kind of emotional maturity that few talk about. Many begin to reflect on the choices they made, the people they lost, and the time they can never get back. At first, these thoughts can hurt, but slowly they transform into understanding. The older man begins to see that life was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be lived, learned, and accepted. Some men turn to spirituality, not out of fear of death, but out of gratitude for life. They begin to find peace in prayer, meditation, or simple moments of stillness. Others find comfort in creativity, painting, writing, building, fixing. These acts keep the soul alive. They turn solitude into art. There is also a hidden strength that develops in men who live alone. They become problem solvers out of necessity. When the light bulb goes out, they replace it. When the pipe leaks, they find a way. This self-reliance brings quiet pride. It tells them they are still capable, still needed, still strong in their own way. Yet one truth stands above all. The hardest part is not the silence, or the chores, or the aging body. It is the emotional invisibility. Society often overlooks older men. People assume they are fine, that they prefer solitude, that they do not need emotional care. But inside, many crave simple human connection, a genuine conversation, a shared meal, a knock on the door, a moment of being seen. In Japan, researchers have studied what they call kodokushi, or lonely death, where elderly men die alone without anyone noticing for days. It is a growing social issue worldwide. Experts from the World Health Organization warn that social isolation among the elderly is as harmful to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. This truth must not be ignored. It reminds us that human connection is not a luxury. It is a lifeline. Still, there are ways older men can build connection without losing their independence. Joining hobby clubs, taking part in community centers, walking in parks where familiar faces appear. Even digital communities can help. Video calls with family, online reading groups, simple text messages. Every small act of reaching out creates warmth. There is also wisdom in simplicity. Older men living alone often stop chasing big dreams. They begin to notice the beauty of small things, the smell of morning tea, the sound of birds, the comfort of a well-worn chair. They learn that joy was never about wealth or success. It was about presence, about being here, fully, in this one small moment. A man who learns to live alone learns to talk to himself with kindness. At first, his inner voice may sound harsh. It may remind him of mistakes or regrets, but with time, that voice softens. It becomes a friend. He learns to forgive himself. To say, I did my best. That self-compassion becomes his greatest companion. There is beauty in growing old alone, though few notice it. It strips away everything false. What remains is truth. The truth that peace does not come from others. It comes from acceptance. The truth that strength is not measured by how much one holds on to, but by how gracefully one lets go. Sometimes, the older man walks outside in the evening. The world looks softer then. Children are playing. Young couples are laughing. The smell of dinner drifts through the air. He feels a pang of longing, but also deep peace. He knows that life keeps moving, as it always has. He has become part of its quiet rhythm. He remembers his youth, the noise, the urgency, the need to be seen. Now he understands that real wisdom is the ability to be content in silence, to appreciate what remains instead of mourning what is gone, to love quietly, without expecting anything in return. Older men who live alone are often misunderstood. Some see them as sad or forgotten. But in truth, many of them are among the wisest souls on earth. They have seen life in all its forms. They have known love, loss, failure, and resilience. They have learned what truly matters. They teach us that loneliness can be a teacher, that silence can heal, that growing old is not the end of joy, but the beginning of understanding. They remind us that time, though relentless, is also kind in its own way. It softens sharp edges. It deepens the soul. For those who live alone now, remember this. You are not forgotten. The walls around you hold your story. The world outside still needs your presence, your wisdom, your calm. Reach out when you can. Move when you are able. Rest when you must. And know that solitude is not emptiness. It is space. Space to think, to feel, to remember, to be. If you listen closely, the silence in your home carries a voice. It whispers the truth about who you have become. A survivor, a teacher, a quiet pillar of strength. You are living proof that a man's worth is not measured by who stands beside him, but by the peace he builds within himself. So when the night grows long, and the world outside feels distant, breathe slowly. Feel your heartbeat. That sound means you are still here, still learning, still becoming. That is the greatest wisdom of all, the wisdom of living alone, yet never being truly lonely, because the soul, once awakened, is never without company. So when the night settles, and the world outside falls silent, you begin to see it more clearly. Living alone was never the ending you feared. It was the beginning you never expected. Somewhere between the quiet meals and the long evenings, the shift begins to happen. The silence that once felt like a punishment turns into peace. The emptiness becomes space. And in that space, you finally meet yourself. Not the version shaped by others, not the man who is always needed by someone else, but the one who has been quietly waiting within you all along. You start to understand what you truly value, what you actually need, and what no longer matters at all. You realize that life still moves, still breathes, still holds beauty, even when it is lived alone. Each sunrise feels like a gentle reminder that your story is not over. It is changing shape. You are learning that solitude does not mean absence. It means presence, presence of mind, presence of soul. And in that calm presence, you finally understand that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you build with yourself.